The light just popped on, so... Oh, I froze. Look at me. Dick this whole video. Oh, that's too bad. I kind of wish it would have stayed frozen. You would hear me talking and you'd be looking at it so confused. Why is he making that dumb face? Okay. So this video was sponsored by YouBuyWeRush. This is New Muslim Crash Course, Episode 1, Introduction by Janaversity. Give him a subscribe. Small channel. I don't know if it's his channel, but I found this video on another channel. But this was a channel that was recommended to me. So if you're going to watch this video, I would recommend going to, and I'm going to put the link to the video from this channel up. But there was another one, had like 130 subscribers. I don't know if this is his second channel, but same video was on it. So we'll see. I'm going to guess this is his channel because it looks like it says Versity down there. And of course, Versity. So yes, I would say watch the video from this channel. If you do, or watch any of his videos from his channel. Before we get started, there's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate, and if you do, you request a video, you will also be, your name will appear as sponsored for the video. You don't want to do that? You can subscribe. If you don't want to do that, bare minimum, just give me a thumbs up. That helps the channel. All right? So let's get into the video.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you and welcome to Janaversity's New Muslim Crash Course. First and foremost, I want to congratulate you on embracing Islam and on deciding to continue down this journey each and every single day of worshiping Allah and following the teachings of His Messenger, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Even if this isn't your first day, week, month, or even year as a Muslim, I pray that Allah increases you in knowledge, increases you in faith, and increases you in practice, and that He continues to guide you and makes you a source of guidance for others. You're most likely here because you accepted Islam at some point, or maybe you're interested in Islam and somebody had directed you to come and watch this video series. Or maybe you just saw some of my other content, went down a rabbit hole that brought you here. Either way, welcome. So let's jump right into what this series is all about. Who am I? What does it consist of? Who is it for? And how to make the most of it. So what is this all about? As somebody who embraced Islam over 20 years ago, I'm absolutely certain that either you have had or are about to have a very interesting experience as a Muslim. Now it can be, and it should be, a very beautiful experience. But those of us, like myself, and many others who've walked this path before you, know that it can also be an extremely difficult and challenging one. We found it to be challenging and difficult because converting to any new religion is challenging in and of itself, especially as you come to grips with making a major decision like this while reconciling between the old you versus the new you as that continues to develop. There's also a lot of pressure that can be felt from parents, siblings, friends, aunts, uncles, neighbors, coworkers, as well as the general society that you're living in. This can come in the form of how they react, how you react to how they react, as well as the different expectations that these different entities place on you. This can be made even more complicated by the politics internationally as well as domestically of the United States and its interests, which have had Muslims and Muslim countries and their conflicts under the spotlight, especially since the beginning of the century. On top of that, one of the biggest difficulties that many of us face is navigating the Muslim community as we try to find our place inside of it. You're going to find that there could be a lack of support, or none at all. There's racism, there's nationalism, there's all sorts of different theological beliefs and practices. There are cultures to navigate, there are opportunists to avoid, and that's just scratching the surface. As Muslim communities resemble more of a buffet of options as opposed to a specific denomination at a specific house of worship. And you guessed it, they all believe that their way is the right way, and they all want you to join their group. There's also the difficulty in learning a complete...
So as a side note, I reached out to the Islamic Center in Peoria and went through the site, and I could reach out to the president or the treasurer. So I reached out to the president, had some questions that I asked, I gave them my email, or I clicked the button so they could get back to me. And I said I had questions and I just wanted to do some talking, and told them who I was, that I had a channel here, gave the link to the channel, said I was doing Muslim content and so on and so forth, and named some of the companions and stuff like that and some of the people that I've covered, just so they didn't think that I was just walking into this blindly, you know. Never heard back. About a week later, over a week later, I went back to the website, and I did the contact me, but I did it in email form. So I just emailed the mosque, the Islamic Center. That's been almost a month, and I've never heard back. I've driven by it several times for work. I've not seen a car there. So I have no idea if that place is open. I don't know anything. Just thought I would add that.
Completely new set of rules for worship and code of conduct, which can be overwhelming in and of itself for its own reasons. First is that there's a lot to learn, and second is that everybody seems to have their own way of doing things, and again, their way just happens to be, again, the right way. It can be very difficult to find anybody who is knowledgeable and wants to teach you in any sort of organized fashion. Now, the internet is the quickest way to learn, but it's filled with everything, a lot of which is about nothing, much of which is more detrimental than it actually is beneficial, which is made way worse because now everybody with a camera and a social media account is a self-certified scholar. And this is made even more complicated by the fact that everybody in every single group wants to claim the converts to Islam so that they can teach them and indoctrinate them into their group. So there's essentially a tug of war going on, and you're the rope. So from my perspective, it would have been great had 20 years ago somebody...
To be fair, that's pretty much like pretty much any other religion. Every group, every sectional group has their own way of going about to praise whatever. And so when they lure you in, they're luring you into their beliefs, which may not, it may be more, it could be more relaxed, or it could be more, what would be the opposite? Not aggressive, but it could be, there could be more of a stringent path as to what you do, what you're allowed to do, if that's the word I was looking for.
Pulled me aside and said, "Hey Nick, congratulations. I'm super happy for you, but I want you to know that this is going to be difficult and Allah is going to test you. But I want to help you by making sure that you have a sound understanding of the fundamentals and that you know of some of the difficulties that lay ahead so you can have a plan ready to help navigate them." And so that's what this series is all about. Hello, brother. Hello, sister who recently just accepted Islam. Congrats. I pray it's going to be a really beautiful experience, and I expect that it will be. But it's going to be extremely challenging. Allah is going to test you, and there are a lot of difficulties that lay ahead. I'd like to help you understand the fundamentals and know about some of the different challenges that you are inevitably going to face as you move along in this journey so that you can have a plan on how to navigate those difficulties when they arise. Now, you might be saying, wait a second, who are you to even speak on these matters? So my name is Nick Pelletier. I accepted Islam in 2003 and then again in 2004. And I have a unique history with the Muslim community, and that I've experienced it from many different angles that most people have not. Now, most of my experiences are not unique to me, but it's rare that you're going to find somebody in the Muslim community that has experienced the Muslim community from all of the different angles and aspects that I have collectively. Obviously, I converted to Islam, coming from a Christian background, so I know a thing or two about that. I also left Islam within the first couple of months due to the confusing experience of trying to navigate the community without any guidance or educational foundation. So I know a thing or two about that. I feel like I really accepted Islam in the fall of 2004 after the month of Ramadan on the day of Eid, and have been steady ever since. I worked for the Muslim community, working in an official capacity in the political activism arena for 2 years, protesting, organizing, representing the Muslim community, speaking on radio, speaking at a nationally televised press conference, and all that jazz way before any of it was ever cool to do so. And believe it or not, there was a point in time where it wasn't. I was shortly thereafter blessed with the opportunity to study in Cairo, Egypt for 2 years, after which I received a scholarship to study at the Islamic University in Medina, and I spent 5.5 years there, graduating with a degree in Islamic law. After which I worked as an imam for arguably one of the largest Islamic organizations in the country down in Houston, Texas, and then as one of, if not the only, full-time director of outreach or dawah for one of the largest Islamic centers in the entire country, as well as acting as an imam. Throughout the years, I've had my friends and family cut me off. I've had my life threatened, handcuffed, detained, interrogated. I've also been bullied inside of the Muslim community. I've been threatened, I've been slandered, I've been attacked, I've been run out, and I've been abandoned. I've visited and spoken at dozens of Islamic centers across the country. I've spoken at conferences, and I've done the whole look at me on social media thing. I currently live in the woods and go to an Islamic center where nobody knows my name. Next to nobody ever says salam, and nobody ever checks in on me to see how I'm doing. So I've seen a lot over the past 20 years. From a convert's perspective, from a community member's perspective, from a position of leadership. Now, it's not the only perspective, but it's my perspective. And I believe it will be helpful to those who are walking that same path of development as Muslims in America, coming from a non-Muslim upbringing. So for those reasons, I feel qualified to speak on it, and may Allah help me in doing so. So why am I doing this? Look, I haven't experienced everything, but I've experienced a lot and I've seen even more. This series is an opportunity to share that perspective in hopes that you develop a stronger foundation to your Islamic knowledge so that you can accelerate your spiritual development and also be aware of the many pitfalls that lay in front of you so that you can avoid them. Many people get excited when you accept Islam. But what they won't tell you is although we have a lot of people interested in Islam, for those that accept Islam, we also have a lot of people walking right back out that front door. Most of the time, this is due to the difficult experiences that they have while trying to navigate the Muslim community and the different challenges that they face, some of which I just outlined. Being in the community for 20 years, I've been told year after year, things are going to change, just wait till the next generation. The next generation is here. They were born and raised in America, they have children, they're attending the Islamic centers, and the reality is that what it looks like today doesn't look much different from what it looked like back then. The only difference is that we have larger buildings with bigger chandeliers and more division. Now, there are many organizations that claim to be giving dawah and claim to be trying to take care of converts to Islam, but unfortunately, in my experience, their methodology for delivering this message is flawed, and they are more concerned with indoctrinating you to eventually become a member of their group than they are concerned with your actual individual spiritual development, establishing a community which you can feel a part of, and equipping you with the knowledge to benefit the communities from which you came. Personally, I can't stand people who just complain about the problems that are obvious and in front of us without taking steps to actually work towards a solution. Jenniversity was created with the purpose of giving people hope and guidance in their lives through spiritually uplifting content based on principles of Islamic teachings, as well as creating a platform where they could network and eventually build physical local communities and continued spiritual development. So
I just want to go back to something he said. It just kind of came to me. It's easy to complain about the issues that you're seeing, that you're facing, but solutions are hard. You could say, I would do this, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and I would do this. In theory, sure, maybe that solves 2 issues, but now you got this third. Well, easy, I would do this, okay, but what if that opens up another issue? It's like I say, it's easy to solve, it's easy to complain, it's tough to solve. So what do people do? They give out, I do this. Okay, well you got this now, and potentially this. Well, you know what? Fine, whatever. Somebody else can deal with it. Well, everyone kicks that bucket. Kicks the can down to the next person or the next generation no one wants to be involved in solving, because solving is a tough issue, and sometimes you got to bring a group of people. You got to bring like a little coalition of people to come together to solve this issue and get the best minds. People don't want to do that. Also, people who will complain and throw out an idea, that idea could get rejected. And so what happens? People get bruised egos. Fine, whatever. And they're done. And all they do now is contribute to the toxicity of, well, that's an issue and that's an issue. And then they'll start to create their, well, I tried, but no one wanted to listen to me. Well, no, they did listen to you, but your idea wasn't acceptable. It didn't work. And so it's a constant butting of heads. Meanwhile, issues aren't being solved and more issues are always growing like weeds. So yeah, just wanted to add that. Apologies.
who is this for? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory that it's designed for people who've embraced Islam. That may have been yesterday, that may have been months ago, that may have been years ago, but that's the target audience. So everything that we're going to address is going to be addressed from that audience's perspective. Does that mean that others can't benefit from it? Of course not. There are many of our brothers and sisters who grew up in Muslim households that are going to face many of the same issues, albeit from a different perspective. I personally did not live that experience, so I'm not going to speak on it unless it's essential for what we're talking about with regards to our issues. So in general, this series is for anyone who can take benefit from it. It's for somebody who embraced Islam. It's for somebody who works with people who embraces Islam. It could be somebody who's a parent of somebody who embraced Islam, just as much as it could be for somebody who grew up Muslim, but whose parents never taught them anything about Islam. It's just important for me to note that I'm going to be talking to you as if you grew up as anything other than Muslim in America. Which brings up another point. What about our brothers and sisters that are in the UK, that are in Canada and Australia, New Zealand, or any other English-speaking country? I love you all. I'm sure much of this content will have a lot of benefit in it for you, but there's going to be a lot of things that may be specific to the dynamics of the country that you're living in.
I was just about to say, you can't give a broad version of, sorry, my eye itches. You can't give a broad version. That's problem solving in your neighborhood when a different country doesn't have that issue. So you can't just say, here it is and there you go. It doesn't. It's not an all in one encompassing problem solving or dealing with issue situation. Sorry.
So I would advise that you reference back to somebody who's more aware of the cultural nuances of the society that you're trying to navigate. But we're all adults. This is the internet. You're going to do whatever you're going to do. Just know that I'm going to be talking to you as if you're an American dealing with American issues. On that note, I will not be trying to wow you with my command of the Arabic language. I spent 2 years studying Arabic in Cairo. I spent 5.5 years in Saudi Arabia. My Arabic is good enough to get me through a prestigious Islamic university in the heart of the Muslim world. I find that most people that are speaking about Islam, that are speaking to an English-speaking audience, oftentimes drape their talks with Arabic and poetry, really not for the audience, but more to flex their theological muscles as well as to establish some sort of credibility. I'm going to talk to you like we're sitting at the end of a dock with our feet dangling in the water, just talking about life. I want your cousin to be able to stomach this. I want you to be able to share a video with your girl over at the salon just as much as I want you to be able to share this content with the guy you hoop with. I don't want them opening up an app to translate every other word that I say, so I'm not going to be dropping verses of obscure Arabic poetry just so that you can feel like I'm qualified to speak on any given subject. Now, what if people told you not to listen to me? Well, here's your answer. Don't. See that browser up there? Just go up there, X out, or just close the app. Still here? Just want to spectate? Look, whatever people have to say about me, I want you to just assume every little last bit of it is true. In fact, it's probably way worse. I'm in no need of followers. I do not need your support. You are an adult. If your spiritual overlords have told you that I am bad for your soul, then just move on. This series is not about listen to me, don't listen to them. I don't operate in that arena. I don't have time. I'm trying to benefit people. If you find benefit, then welcome. If you don't, then like I said, move on. The longer you stay at that which is not for you, the longer it prevents you from going to that which is. If no one listens or benefits from this,
that's some way to phrase things to people who don't like my videos or don't like my videos, but then have a problem with one video in particular because I said something that they disagree with. That's the same response that I give. Look, if it's not for you, move on. There are plenty of channels. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I have my own thoughts and opinions on matters that may not be the same as yours. That doesn't mean my opinion's wrong because you disagree with it. It also doesn't mean your opinion is wrong because I disagree with it. We just have a disagreement on an issue.
Then at the end of the day, there's still benefit in it for me. And the fact that I am meeting my obligation first and foremost, and second, that I am spending my time in the remembrance of God through review, preparation, and delivering of these videos, and that in and of itself is good. And if just one person benefits from this, then that is good upon good, and I would be blessed to be a part of such an opportunity. So if you're not hung up on the my teacher's bigger than your teacher and don't listen to this teacher or that teacher nonsense, and you feel like you could use some help navigating this path, then welcome. And let's get into it. So we are going to cover a lot in this series. It is going to be extensive, but it is not going to be comprehensive, meaning that there is a lot to cover, but we are not going to cover everything. We're going to cover the things that you need to know and the most likely scenarios that you're going to run into. Depending on when you watch this series, there will be additional content and courses which you can benefit from to dive deeper into the Islamic sciences if you don't have access to them elsewhere. So throughout this series, we are going to cover the following. Section 1 is going to cover the basics of faith with regards to our beliefs and practices. You need to understand what a Muslim believes. You have to have a basic understanding of the basic concepts of faith without getting stuck in the weeds. I've met Muslims who've been Muslims for years, but can't give you a basic definition of what is Islam. So we're going to cover what you need to know to get you to where you got to go which is hopefully paradise. Section 2, we're going to cover the Muslim character, which is probably one of the most overlooked aspects of Islam. You have to understand, how do you interact in each and every single situation? How do you carry yourself? What should your character be with regards to your Lord, with regards to the prophets, with regards to yourself, and with regards to the society around you? These first 2 sections is what I would refer to as your foundational concepts. I would not brush over these 2 sections, nor would I skip them. After these foundational concepts, we're going to get into muddy waters, where in section 3, we're going to be discussing navigating the Muslim community and the myriad of problems that you can expect to face, such as the convert fetish, avoiding becoming a mascot, which path is the right path, who's a real scholar, how do I avoid entrapment, the red button topic of Islam versus culture, how to know if you're in a cult, what is Islamic clothing, dealing with the lack of community, dealing with their unwelcoming environments, dealing with their politics, navigating the racism, dealing with the corruption of the boards, and much, much more, each with their own individual videos discussing those topics. In section 4, we'll be discussing navigating your personal life. Should you change your name? Dealing with your friends and family, interacting with society, social media profiles, and should you become a social media Muslim influencer? We're going to talk about finding permissible work, talking about drugs, alcohol, addiction, and much, much more. Section 5 is going to be about studying Islam. How do you go about learning Islam? Is there a 1400-year history of how to actually approach Islamic studies? Or should you study with somebody who accepted Islam last year and has 50,000 followers on TikTok? Maybe you should join 6 different WhatsApp groups. Or should you watch all of the refutations of the refutations of the refutations of all of the Muslim TMZ YouTube channels discussing their least favorite preacher and what he had for breakfast last week? Obviously, there is a lot of nonsense that you can get caught up into. And unfortunately, there's no shortage of people that fall into this. So we want to know, how do we avoid those pitfalls, and how do we make the most of our experience so that we're not 2 or 3 years or 4 or 5 or God forbid 10 or more, and we haven't learned the basics of our faith. We still can't speak or read or understand Arabic. Because if you've been around for a handful of years and the people you're listening to and following haven't taught you a basic book of fiqh or aqidah, or gone through a book of tafsir, or any of the other Islamic sciences and built you up with a strong foundation, then you have to ask an important question. Are your teachers incompetent, or are they willingly negligent? In other words, do they just lack the capability to teach you these things? Or do they just want to keep you dependent on them? So we have to break down for you, what is the methodology of study? We have to break down for you, how do you actually go about finding a teacher so that you're not studying from somebody who was doing dance videos on TikTok 2 years ago. Section 6 is where things really get exciting for me, where we talk about how do we deliver the message of Islam to other people. We, more than anyone else, have a responsibility to our people. It has been made evident over many years that the vast majority of people in the Muslim community could care less about our people embracing Islam. And at the end of the day, you cannot blame someone for not doing something which they never intended to do. There's no point in getting upset about it. We bear the responsibility. At the end of the day, it's our responsibility, and if it's not getting done, then it is our fault. We must take action, but that action must be based upon knowledge and wisdom, much of which is lacking in the vast majority of what you see produced for the masses. There is a massive amount of misrepresentation of Islam from people that don't know what they're talking about. There are people who know what they're talking about, but lack the ability to convey that message in such a way that your aunt, uncle, cousin, brother, neighbor is going to actually be able to relate to it. We don't need any more street corner muftis aggressively shoving Bible verses into the faces of a vastly secular society. There's also a lot of us who've fallen into the trap of allowing our passions to blind us into calling to Islam before we have a strong foundation and understanding of what it is that we're actually calling to. This is further complicated and amplified by the Muslim community's convert fetish and wanting to put some of us on pedestals because it makes them feel good about their faith as they see that their cultural experience is confirmed by someone embracing Islam. So what do you need to know to call people to Islam? How should you talk to people? When should I put myself forward to speak? And when should I take a step back? Sometimes knowing when not to say something is just as important as knowing when to say something. What are the hierarchy of topics that you should be talking about? How do you carry yourself? This, like every other aspect of Islam, is a science, and there's a methodology to it. And with this, we'll close the series. As you can see, this is pretty extensive. What we've talked about here is probably about 90 videos long. That being said, we will not cover everything. There are some subjects that the average Muslim just does not need to know. There are some topics which would require more of a one-on-one approach. There are going to be some topics that, quite frankly, I'm just not qualified to speak on. There's also a lot of things that are just not urgent enough to add.
That's actually very refreshing to hear. Some subjects I'm not qualified to speak on, instead of somebody taking it in their hand and just trying to run with it. That's very refreshing, because we're not all as smart as we think on subjects that we may know a lot of or love. I love history, American history, presidents. There's so much I don't know. I know that.
Them to this series, which already has an extensive amount of content which needs to be produced. In the future, we hope to have more specific classes based on the varying Islamic sciences. And again, depending on when you're watching this video, those may or may not be available on genniversity.com. But what you'll find in this series is going to be comprehensive enough to allow you to understand the basics of your faith and to be able to navigate the Muslim community as well as the society around you. I believe that the best way to benefit from this series is to come with the intention to learn and to eventually benefit others. The second is that I would go through these videos step by step. You may find that at some point you'll come across stuff that you feel like you already know. It never hurts to get a reminder. You may be hearing it from a different angle. It may be something that might not necessarily apply to you, but may be of benefit to others. If you have questions, I would just email them to genniversity@gmail.com. I tend not to hang out in the comment sections, especially if they get noisy. I'm not afraid of trolls or smacking them, but it's just not the best usage of my time, and so I don't suggest you bother with them either. If you're looking for community, I suggest you go over to genniversity.com, where eventually we'll have our in-depth courses, but this website is designed to facilitate groups where I will be active and accessible. The hope is that in the future, we'll be able to build local physical convert communities where you'll be able to network with other individuals that can help you along your journey, as well as teachers that are local to your community so that your Islamic existence doesn't remain solely online. If you'd like to support the work that we're doing, you can do so at genniversity.com. Now, I'm in no need of your money, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of cool things that money can help us to do, create, and promote. And I have no shortage of ideas. But in the beginning, all we're really trying to do is make sure that we can keep our site running and promote it. But eventually we want to be able to move on to building physical centers, retreats, rehab centers, and much, much more to help our people. That's pretty much all we have as an introduction to this series. If you're still here, I'm going to assume in good faith that you're here to learn and you'd like to support what we're doing. And the biggest way that you can support these efforts is just to share it with other people that you think will benefit. May Allah bless you, increase you in knowledge, increase you in faith, increase you in good deeds. May He forgive you for your shortcomings, and may He grant you success in this life and in the next. May peace be upon you, and we'll see you in the next video.
That's good. It was straight. Is that him? That must be. Yeah. Wow. He looks really different. Decided to change. It must be. An audience of one. Huh. Okay. Oh, that was my chest popping. Oh. All right. We're going to end this video here. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. Very good. I'll check out some of the other videos. Not right now, but until I do, we're going to end the video here now. So have a good day.